This looks like a wig when you don't brush it out and then you just put it on. You know. Y'all have been to anime conventions, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so, it's muggy up here, but I wanted to talk about the black phone before I'm just not in the mood to talk about it. Yeah, so I heard very polarizing responses to this movie. I had some people be like, this is booty ass shit. I've also heard some people like, no, this is really great. In all honesty, I think it was kind of mid. Like, it's like, out of 5 stars, I gave it like 3.5. It was alright, It could have been worse. Obviously, it could have been a lot better. And I'll go into spoilers in a bit. But, yeah, so, as you know, with the trailer, it's like, this is back in the day, kids get kidnapped by the Grabber, which, what a great name, for that thing that your grandma has to pick up things. It's played by Ethan Hawke, and, then there's a phone, a black phone. Why's it gotta be black? Sorry, that's terrible. Oh, Jesus. Anyway, so... This is why I get in trouble. So there's a black phone that rings even though it's disconnected, and he gets to the current kid who's kidnapped talks to previous kids who are kidnapped, kind of thing. And the story kind of like ensues from there. Sure. What's gonna happen? Does he get out? Who fucking knows? See you next time on Dragon Ball Z, that kind of shit. And yeah, so that's, like I said, trailer-wise, that's what it says. Sorry, my hair has gone to like a mint color. I really need to recolor this. I miss the brightness. I miss the brightness. What happened? Anyway, so, yeah, like I said, it's kind of mid. Like I said, before I go into spoilers, this movie felt more like a, calm it down a little, more like a survival horror game played through as like a movie than like an actual horror film. Can't really go too far into that because that goes into spoilers, but it's like when you're playing kind of like the Telltale games, because I definitely play those a lot, like Until Dawn, what's that new one, Dokori, like that kind of stuff, where it's like, it's a lot more of like watching a video game than playing it, because you just choose things, and sometimes there's like a quick time event, it feels like that while I was watching it. Because it's Blumhouse, not really spoilers, it is a current, like a modern day horror film, so there's jump scares. I wasn't startled by any of the jump scares. I was more startled by my mom opening the door while I was watching the movie and being like, good night, and I was like, God, Jesus, because I had headphones on, because when it's a horror movie, I got these nice speakers, but sometimes, with a horror movie, I pop on the headphones, to give it that atmosphere and stuff. But then, it's all dark in here with the movie playing, and then suddenly, like, the door whips open, a bright light, and it's a silhouette of your mother. You're like, ah, and then she's just like, good night, and I'm like, good night, Mom. It scared me more. This one, like, it's like with a lot of movies, like, you start hearing the stinger, like, the tension hook. I always say tension rod, but that's a curtain thing. The tension hook, the boom, like that kind of stuff. So, like, you can kind of predict it, and when there were the jump scares, they kind of, like, they were warranted, because I hate when it's a jump scare, and like, the guys who did Saw said this the best, is that if you're gonna do a jump scare, do it, but don't do it and have someone be like, dude, you forgot your keys, because the false jump scare, just like, it pisses off an audience. It makes, it's like you're making fun of them. It's like, oh, the audience is dumb, right? That kind of thing. And so, yeah, blah, blah, blah. My brain just stopped thinking. So yeah, what else was there? I think the acting from the kids was fine. They did pretty well. They really showed like school fights really well, and it wasn't so like I don't know how to explain it. It wasn't just like, oh, like, you know, like, they don't really show, because I don't want to go too far into spoilers, but kids fight in school. But you don't, like, you know how, like, you'll see it looked like these kids actually freaking hit each other, you know? Anyway, I'm gonna go into spoilers. It's really hard to talk about this without going into spoilers past, like, what the trailer's telling you. But anyway, I went through these spoilers. So, spoilers. I saw it a lot in the comments on Letterboxd, which was, if the sister was the one being kidnapped, this movie would have been only 10 minutes long, which is true. You notice how the grabber only grabs little boys. Kinda gross, man. Like, little kids in general you're grabbing, that's gross. But you're grabbing a bunch of little boys, and then you're doing, like, the little kids on the phone are like, play the game. He wants you to be a naughty boy. And it's like, oh, what am I hearing? Oh, no. 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 Nasty. You know? And then you got friggin' hoes online being like, oh my god, Ethan Hawke, he's so hot as the grabber. I want him to grab me. And I'm just like, therapy, honey. Therapy. Please go to therapy. So yeah, like, yeah, so all the past kids are on the phone with him, one individually, like, calling him. They don't remember their names anymore because they're in the dead realm, and who has names in the dead realm kind of thing. Where I was saying how this felt like a video game is like, you know, when you play a video game, you're like, God, I wish I could play as the sister more than the brother, because the brother is like, I'm a pacifist, and, like, people fight me, and I don't really fight back, and, you know, you just take it. But the sister, like, when the kids were getting up, and the sister came by with, like, a rock, and was like, bow, 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 you know? There are times when you're playing a character, you're like, I hope I get to switch characters at some point, you know? Again, like, Telltale games, and, you know, Until Dawn, Quarry shit, where, like, you get to be kind of every character on screen, but you're just like, no, I have to play as this kid? I want to play as a little girl, I want to, like, you know, but that would be too much fun, and we don't want fun. We want, you know, thinking stuff and lessons learned, but sometimes you just want to, you know, but yeah, so of course the sister, Jesus. Doing reviews when it's warm is the worst. I'm just like, anyway, the sister, like I said, if she was kidnapped, this movie would have been done immediately, because she would have, like, fought tooth and nail, bitten him, just killed him. Like, while he was grabbing her, she would have been like, ah! And then he would have been dead, you know? She wouldn't have even made it to the basement, because, like, she would have killed him. Oh, the sister also has, like, the Shannon, you know? She has these, like, premonitions that she calls dreams. And I do like that, like, with the dream sequences, they didn't just put, like, a weird kind of, like, wispy filter or whatever that usually these, like, when movies do, like, dream sequence. Like, this one is slightly, oh my god, like in Saw 3 or something, when there was, like, layers of, like, showing old footage, and they would do, like, this is the Diane Sawyer filter, and this is, you know, like, all that stuff. This one, they decided to go with, like, the 35mm kind of, like, I guess you would say filter. I don't know if those parts were filmed actually on film, or it was just obviously digital, and then they, you know, did that over it. But I like that they did that, because I hate when movies try to, like, do like, the fake outs I can't stand in movies, whether it's, you know, horror or anything, any kind of fake out shit. It's like, again, it feels like, it's like, one, I'm being lied to movie, but not in, like, a good, like, oh, sleight of hand kind of thing, but, like, more of, like, the movie thinks I'm stupid, again, with annoying jump scares that don't, you know, really serve as anything. But yeah, I like that, you know, you're hitting a dream sequence and not just, you know, whatever bullshit. And the sister, you know, of course the dad, oh, the dad's a piece of shit, he beats up the kids because he's a fucking drunk, because why not, right? And, you know, the little girl, she constantly has to be told, like, don't talk about your dreams. Your mom had them too, da-da-da. It's like, okay. But, because she has the Shannon, she's, like, able to help, like, the cops. And funny enough, the cops, like, mostly, in, like, these kind of movies, or just movies or things in general, um, no one believes the kid. You know how many times you watch a movie and you're always like, God, just listen to the kid. I know it's a fucking kid and no one thinks kids know anything. But this movie was like, wait a second. You said black balloons. We never released that information that there was black balloons. This kid knows. Like, the cops were like, it's back and they're like, this kid knows. This kid knows we need this kid on our investigation. That kind of stuff. I mean, no, they didn't, like, give her, like, a freaking badge and was like, help us solve this case. But they weren't so easily dismissive of the kid as they were, like, as they would be, excuse me, like all other movies. Just like, kids are just imaginations, they're making it up. But how, it's like the very Captain Obvious thing, like, one cop is like, how would the kid know? We never released that. And the other kid's like, kids make things up all the time. And then, like, no one comes to an agreement, and then everyone's dead. And then by the end, they're like, we should have believed. Like, whereas this one, they're like, wait a second, we didn't release information. This kid's onto something. The Shining, it's real. That kind of stuff. So, I did enjoy that they kind of, like, just believed the kid off the bat. And, she sees all this stuff. She sees how, like, all the previous dead kids, kind of lived, and sadly kind of how they died, in a way. I kind of know, like, kind of proximity where her brother is and all that shit. And again, this is where the video game part comes in, because every, what was it, the four other kids, or five, or the kids that died and are on the phone with the main kid, I'm saying the word kid a lot, they're like, it feels like a tutorial thing, where they're like, hey, I'm gonna, like, in games where they're like, hey, there's a soft spot near the bathroom, and I was digging, and blah, 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 and it was like, oh, okay, and so he goes and starts digging, and I also feel like, okay, let me actually continue on, yeah, and then they're like, oh, there's a wire that I pulled, and it's, like, loose near the floorboard, and he, like, pulls, like, this excess wire, like, and then it was like, oh, you gotta fight him, fill the phone with dirt, and then, like, he's like, do it with me, take a step back, and then punch, take a step back, and punch, and it's like, it all felt like tutorial stuff, like, every sequence of, like, the game you're going through, and this is what I was about to say, and I also feel like, he's like a shitty killer, because the other kids really didn't do much or whatever, but, like, he didn't really, like, check up, like, he checked in on the kid and gave him, like, some eggs and water or whatever, some random shit, which I also found funny that, like, he left him a glass bottle, not thinking that the kid wasn't gonna go cling, like, not the smartest killer, because he had that, like, metal grate over the window, and when the kid, like, yanked it out, no one heard it, whereas, like, other movies, if, like, the floor creaks, they're like, hey, what are you doing, blah, blah. I mean, this takes place back in the day, so it's not like it's gonna be filled with cameras, like, I guess, like, a current kind of homicidal killer thing, not like a Jigsaw thing, and so, like, he doesn't notice that, the thing there, he doesn't notice that the kid rolled out, like, a rug in front of the toilet, just like, oh, that's fine, like, a lot of things, like, you notice that, bro? You're like, okay, or, like, the kids scratch numbers on the wall, like, a lot of killers, like, usually in these scenarios, they like, keep an eye on everything, and they're like, even, it's like the crazy scenario of, like, how did he know his back was turned, or, like, he was gone, he was outside, I saw him outside of the house through the window, and somehow he knew I did the thing, whereas this one, totally oblivious of anything that was happening. And I was like, alright, that makes you a great killer. I guess it makes it more realistic, but I don't know, man. Like, while this whole movie just felt like a video game, which is fine, like I said, it felt like a survival horror game, but at the same time, it didn't really feel like a horror movie, because I'm here to watch a movie, because, like, you know what I'm saying, like, and I really felt like at times it was going to be like, in the corner, it would be like, God, it is windy. It's like, saving current progress, do not turn off game kind of stuff, Okay. Jeez. God. Fucking annoying. Yeah, what else was there? Yeah, so so there's this other character played by the dude was like in the It chapter 2. I almost said 3 because it's the third movie. And he's just there like doing cocaine and stuff, and the cops go to his house. They're like, "Hey," like they're kind of like thinking he's the killer at first, and you as the audience are like, "That's not. It's Ethan Hawke. It's not him." But he's kind of like, yeah, so I got this map and I've been following all this stuff, and we can figure the guy has to live nearby. We got to figure it out. And I'm just kind of wondering like why this guy was put into this movie, because is it that they're going to trust him more than the little girl, even though we all know that the little girl like definitely has more and better information than him, do they both solve at the same time? No, turns out because at one point he drops the line of like, "Oh, this is my brother's place. I'm just staying there for now." Turns out his brother is Ethan Hawke. Because at one point he's like he's doing his cocaine, all this stuff, and he just like looks at the map of all the things pinned, and it just kind of zooms in on a certain part of the map, and I actually paused and I was like, "What am I supposed to look at?" Like I saw like the pins and stuff, and I was like, I don't get it. What am I? What? Because I thought like the pins created like a symbol, because again, I watched too many fucking movies. Like, was that movie Idle Hands? Where like all the killings and stuff, and Vivica Fox like figured it out, and it all created like a star, pentagram. Yeah, anyway, so I'm like, I don't get it. And then turns out, yeah, like the like his brother is Ethan Hawke, and he ends up like in the basement, and he's like, "Oh, I was wondering what all that noise was." Really, man? Really? Like, you heard his voice earlier, but you weren't sure it was him, because all you hear is, "Hey, what's that?" Like, that could be anyone's voice. He's like, "Oh, nothing, it's just the dog," And he's like, "Hey," and of course you knew something was happening, because the doors opened slightly, and he's like, "Hey, oh, no, I don't know, he's at work right now, blah, 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 blah," and all of a sudden, like, the door slowly opens more. Ethan Hawke's there with his, like, work polo, and just like, psh, and he's like, all covered in blood. He's like, "Look what you made me do to my brother," and you're like, all right, bro, you know. And then the little girl has like, so she has obviously, from the more current victim to, I guess you would say, the first victim, she had, the visions, all that stuff. And the very first victim was like just kind of like, bad kid, all that stuff. She sees where his home is. She rides her bike to it. I mean, every person she rode her bike to their place and all that stuff. But this one, like, she rode her bike there, saw the home, and then like the cops trusted her. They went all the way to that home, broke in. It's abandoned house, and you're like, I don't think this is the house, because I remember Ethan Hawke sitting in the kitchen. It was furnished. This is just an empty home. Then they're like, wait a second, there's a basement, because there's a thing covering. They look in, it's all dug up graves, and that house was just like a house for him to like store the bodies. And then the little boy finally gets out, because he got out before, but then he finally got out again. Also, I love the convenience of he's got a padlock on the front door, and it's my bike lock. What? It's written on the wall, and it's like a bunch of numbers, and the kid is like, is it 233117 or is it 2372? That kind of stuff. And the kid is like, I don't remember, because that's what the plot told me. Anyway, it's like remember like a video game where you gotta like, it's like Resident Evil where you gotta go to the thing, and figure that out. Anyway, the plot said so. Anyway, so the first time, yeah, he got out and got like halfway down the street, and then, then Ethan Hawke like shushed him up, knocked him out, put him back in the house, and then finally when he got out, because Ethan Hawke died because he killed him, and then he runs out, he's all battered, and then the little sister's like sitting across the street in front of the dumping ground, and looks, and then sees the brother, and it's like, oh my god. And then I was like, wow, I was across the street this whole time. And I mean, it was also like, wow, I was across the street this whole time. Like the Futurama thing, where they're like a balloon with too much air. It's like Star Trek. Oh, it's so simple. And of course you see across the street, you see the black van, and I was like, oh my god. I was like, Jesus Christ. I'm like, yeah, cops. And this is also back in the day, so it wasn't as much like CCTV and all that stuff happening, But yeah, like, oh, when he, like, kills Ethan Hawke, he puts that grate that came off the window in the hole, so when he, like, falls into the hole, he breaks his ankle, and he starts punching the shit out of him with the phone filled with dirt, then takes the cord and chokes him, and it's like, all that stuff. And it was like, yeah, Finn's got a great arm, because they show him play baseball, and he just, like, pulls it, he's like, you know? Then he, like, throws a steak at the dog and runs out the house. And I was like, oh god, are they gonna, again, do a cop-out where, like, as he's about to go out again, it's like somehow he gets caught or something happens or whatever shit. But no, he gets out. And then because this is also a Blumhouse movie, I thought it was gonna end with, like, one final jump scare like they did in all the goddamn fucking Sinister movies. But it didn't. And it ended like a normal movie with the two siblings, like, oh, the dad apologizing, and then the kid going back to school like everything is fine and all that stuff. Although I want it where, like, the siblings are hugging, and then the credits roll while you see the brother and the sister beat the shit out the dad during the credits. I mean, because it's warranted, because the dad's a piece of shit. But anyway, my camera's about to overheat. That was The Black Phone. It was alright. It's not that great. I don't know why some people thought it was so amazing. And I can see why some people thought it was really dumb. But I feel like because it was well acted and, you know, like, they threw in some film grain, so I'm like, alright. The effects was also great, like I said, well acted. Story was like, you know, like, you hear these stories all the time. It's just slightly different because, you know, premonition shit. There's always, like, the part 7 of every, you know, horror franchise. Someone's all got the shining. But anyway, that's all I have to say. It's alright. The Black Phone.